Hello soulmate, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time of seeing my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for watching. So in this tutorial, we're going to be learning how to make this backless alternate vest top. So if this is one you're interested in, please join me while we get started. Okay, so on your pattern paper, you're going to draw your starting line at the top, and as you can see, I've drawn my starting line, and then I also went ahead to draw a vertical line of 4 inches before the area where we are going to be taking our measurement. So that part is going to be used for the vest. So I marked my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waist, and then I marked the shoulder to hip. So after that, I just went ahead to label it: the bust point, the under bust, the waist, and then the hip. Okay, so I'm using a shoulder to bust of 9.5, shoulder to under bust 13 inches, shoulder to waist 16 inches, and then the waist to the hip is 8 inches. Okay, so after that, I'm going to go ahead to the shoulder line. Starting from that line, I mark that vertical line. After marking 4 inches, I'm going to start from that point and mark 7 inches, which is my shoulder measurement divided by 2. Then I came down by 1 inch, and then from that 1 inch there, I marked 7 inches, which is my armhole depth. And I got this from my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5. I'm working with a bust circumference of 33 inches. So after that, I'm going to draw a straight line at that point, and I'm going to label it my chest line. So now I'm going to also take my tape and measure 7 inches at that chest line from that vertical line we started, and I'm going to connect it from the 1 inch I came down from that shoulder line to meet the chest line. Then I'm going to mark my neck width of 3 inches, and then from there I'm going to connect it to that 1 inch below the shoulder line for my shoulder slope. So after doing this, I'm going to be getting my armhole curve. So for me to do that, I'm going to take the midpoint of that armhole depth I drew earlier, come in from the midpoint by 0.5, and I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. So I'm going to be connecting these 3 points together with my armhole curve. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. So after this, I'm going to be using that as my armhole curve. Okay, so now I'm going to take my bust span, that is my nipple to nipple measurement, divided by 2. So mine is 7 inches, divided by 2 is 3.5. I'm going to mark that on the bust point, on the bust, waist, and then the hip. Then after marking it there, I'm going to use my ruler to connect it with a straight line. Okay, so after connecting it with a straight line, I'm going to come to the under bust area, and I'm going to mark half an inch facing the center front, half an inch towards the center front, and 1 inch towards the side front. I'm going to do the same thing on the waist and the hip. So please, if you are a plus size, you can use 0.75 towards the center front and 1.25 towards the side front. Okay, that is for a plus size. So if you are not on a plus size, if your bust circumference is below 36, you can use this. Okay, so after connecting those lines together to meet the hip, I came down from the bust line by 0.75, and I'm using my curved ruler to connect the under bust to meet that 0.75 I came down with. So the reason why I came down from that 0.75 is for me to avoid any sharp points at that area. Okay, so if you connect it to the top, it's usually have a sharp edge at that point, so this is just to help eliminate it. So now I'm going to the armhole curve, and I'm taking the measurement there, dividing it by 2, and marking the midpoint on that armhole curve like that. So after that, I'm taking my curve ruler to connect these points together from that point I marked to meet the bust span line, and I'm doing this with my marker to make it a bit visible. Okay, so I'm also going to come to that line I just marked now, and I'm going to take half an inch on both sides for a dart. Okay, this is a princess dart. Okay, I have a tutorial where I explain how you can go about making your princess dart bustier. You can actually check my description box to get it. So after marking the 0.5 inch on both sides, I connected them together to meet the points, the lines that I marked earlier. So this is me just trying to shape it and make it very visible so that we can see it well. So after that, I'm going to take the measurement I have there, which is 1 inch from that dart, and I'm going to extend it from the lower part of that dart and connect it together with my marker like this for us to see. So after connecting that 1 inch, I'm going to use that point to meet the armhole. This is me trying to get a new armhole, although we are not going to be using this armhole, but this is for those that want to see how we go about making your princess dart bustier. So after that, I'm just going to go ahead and input the body measurement, adding the dart allowance and the seam allowance. So on my chest line, I mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and my seam allowance. Then in under bust, I mark the bust circumference, the under bust circumference rather, divided by 4. I added the 1.5 inch dart allowance, and I added seam allowance of 1 inch. So I did the same thing for the waist and the hip. So I'm working with a bust 34, like I said earlier. The underbust I'm working with 28 inches. My waist I'm working with 26 inches, and then for the hip I'm working with 39 inches. So after doing this, I went ahead to connect them all together like that. Okay, so this is me indicating the areas that we're going to be cutting off. So after that, I'm going to take our bust dart. So my bust dart is 1.5 inches, which I got from the difference from the shoulder to waist in front and shoulder to waist at the back. So my shoulder to waist in front is 16 inches and shoulder to waist at the back is 14.5 inches. So the difference is 1.5, which I came down from the bust line by 1.5 and connected it to meet the bust span line. Okay. So after this part, we are going to be getting the neck design that we have and then connecting it to our vest. So now what is going to happen is that we are going to be working on that chest line area. Then from that point, we are going to be marking 2.5 inches from that line we marked earlier. That's the vertical line. We're going to mark 2.5 inches from there. So you can actually use 3 inches. It's still okay depending on how much allowance you need for the joining. Okay, so I'm working with 2.5 inches. Then I'm just going to draw a straight line across it like that. Then from that chest line, I'm going to come down by 0.75. Okay, I'm going to come down by 0.75. So if you want your neckline to go deeper, you can come down maybe 1 inch or 1.5, or even on your bust line, your bust point. Okay, so I'm just going to connect the shoulder, that part where we mark 3 inches from 3 inches width earlier on the shoulder line. From that point, I'm going to connect it to meet that 0.75. So I'm trying to do this with a curve. I'm not going to be using the straight part of my ruler because that place has a curve. Okay, so I'm trying to connect this in a way that it will be smooth and then it will still have that curvy shape. So that is what I just did right now. Then I'm going to now extend that line to meet the waistline. Okay, I'm going to use a straight line to meet the waistline like this. Okay, so I also realized that the design was a bit lower than the waistline, so I came down from the waist by 1.5 and I also connected it to meet it like this. So after this, I'm just going to come to the hem area. Then from the side of the waist, I'm going to come down by 6 inches from that side, and I'm also going to mark 6 inches towards the dart area, and then I'm going to connect this together. Okay, this is actually straight, but I'm not going to be using a straight ruler because I want it to have a little bit of this slant shape. So after connecting that point, I'm also going to be marking 6 inches on that vertical line where we are having our vest. So because we want to ensure that the lines are going to be equal, I'm just going to close the dart to ensure it's equal, although it's going to be equal because it's straight. So I'm just going to close it properly and then mark the 6 inches point there, which I'm going to be using to connect to the vest. Okay, so I'm just going to connect it together like this. So after connecting it, I'm just going to indicate the areas where you'll be having the button. So these are the areas where the vest is going to be, and we're going to be having the buttons at that point. Okay, so after this, I'm going to be getting the armhole. I'm going to go to that armhole area and I'm going to mark on that shoulder line. I'm going to mark on that shoulder slope rather 2 inches. So you can use 1.5 or 1.25 depending on how wide you want it to be. So I'm going to be connecting this to meet the armhole. So you're just going to place your curve ruler or your armhole curve like this and connect it to meet the armhole there. Okay, so if you actually want to make this have a full coverage, like if you're quite busty and you want it to have a full coverage, you can come up from the armhole, you can come up by half an inch at that point, mark it and then connect it to the shoulder. Okay, so I'm just going to show you what I'm talking about. So you can just come in by half an inch here, draw a straight line to extend it towards the side, then place your curve from that same 2 inches you marked and connect it to meet the armhole and you're good. But I'm going to be leaving it like this because I am fine with it this way. Okay, but if you are very busty and you want to have a coverage so that your armpit is not showing, you can just do that. After that, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. So at this point, if you find this tutorial very helpful, please give us a thumbs up, share, comment and subscribe to our channel so you can always be notified when we upload new videos. So this is me closing the bust dart. So I just went ahead to close it up and then continue cutting it. Okay, so after cutting it, I went ahead to label it center front and side front. Then for the neck area, which is connected to the back, you're just going to cut a piece of 4 inches and fold it. By the time you fold it, you'll be having 2 inches. Remember, the shoulder is 2 inches we used. So whatever you use is what you're going to be using to cut your fabric. So I'm using about 18 inches long. You can use less, you can use more, depending. Then at that point where you have your shoulder, that is where you're going to be stitching it when you've cut it on your material and you have folded it and turned it the other way. That is from the back to the front. You're going to be joining it on the shoulders and you're going to be using it to tie at the back. Now when I was cutting this, I realized that we have a shortage here, which is going to affect when sewing. So if you notice, you can see that one side is longer, so there's a way you can correct it. It is either you place your ruler like this, ensuring that they are joining together, and use your marker to trace out the excess from this part of the dress of the paper and then cut it off. So you can either cut it off from here if you want to reduce it, or if you don't want to reduce it, you just want to add to the armhole area, you just take a piece of paper like this, place the side front on it and secure it properly, then place the paper on it, ensuring that the chest line match each other and the bust line match each other. When you close it properly like this, you can see that it's showing the excess. Then what you need to do is place your ruler there and then trace out the excess to meet the armhole, so that instead of trimming it off, you're actually adding it to it. Then after that, you just go ahead and cut it out. When you cut it out, ensure you place it properly and trace it very well, like you trim it out with your scissors. Then after that, you are good to go. Okay, so just watch me carefully and you will get it right. If you have any question, please ensure to leave it in the comment section. Okay, so after trimming it, I went ahead to place it together. You can see that it's aligning properly now. So for the back pattern, I just went ahead to repeat the same process of drawing a straight line for the shoulder line, marking the chest line, bust line, under bust, and then the hip. Now the shoulder to waist is 14.5 for here. That's for the back. Remember we said so. And then the distance between the waist and the hip is 8 inches, which I also used. And after that, I'm just going to go ahead and label it. So now I came to the waist area and I marked half an inch there, and I connected it to the top and also below, that is below towards the hip area. So I'm just using this marker to make it a bit visible for us to see. So now I'm going to mark my bust span measurement divided by 2. Okay, so I really want us to pay very much attention to this back. Okay, so I'm marking my bust span divided by 2, and I'm going to mark it on my chest line down to the hip line. And then after marking it, I'm going to connect it with a straight line, just like I'm doing right now. Okay, so I'm going to come to the waist area and mark half an inch on both sides. If you're a plus size, you can use 0.75 or 1 inch. Then after that, I came down from the waistline by 4 inches and I went ahead to connect them together like this. Okay, so after imputing the data, I just went ahead to extended the lines below, that is lines face towards the hip area. Then after this, I'm just going to go ahead and impute my body measurement. So I'm just going to place my measurement, dividing them by 4 inches. That is for the bust area, which is going to be on the chest line, the waist area, and then the hip area. And I also went ahead to add the dart allowance on the waist, and I added the seam allowance. Okay, so after doing that, I went ahead to connect them together, just like I'm doing right now. So at this point, you are going to be working at this lower part where I'm going to come down from the waist by 6 inches, just like we did for the front. And I'm also marking the dart area. I'm coming down by 6 inches, and towards the center back, same thing, 6 inches. Because I don't want this to be too straight, I'm going to be using a slant line, a little bit slant. Okay, so this is it. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out. Okay, before cutting it, I want you to understand that we are going to be cutting only this part of the dress, that is from the waist to the hip, and the reason is because of the style. So just watch me carefully, okay, follow me, and then cut out the dart as well. So by the time we cut it, we are going to be having center back and side back, and this is going to be from the waist to the hip. So by the time we cut it on our fabric, we are going to be joining it together on that side, and we're going to be cutting 2 pieces of it, which is supposed to be on both sides. Now for this part, we are going to be cutting from the bust line. Okay, just watch me while I cut it. then follow me. Then after cutting it, I'm going to cut out all the dart area, and then this is what we have. So now this is also center back and side back, but I'm putting up to indicate that this is the upper part, and I'm going to label this one down to indicate that this is the lower part, which is the waist to the hip. So now please, I want us to take note of this very well. So for this upper part, I'm just going to go and use my tape to secure it properly so that I can use it to explain very well. Now by the time you have it joined, that is by the time you've joined it in your fabric together like this, and you have this, remember we are cutting two pieces, you're going to mark 1 inch from that center back, and I'm going to cut it off. Then after marking 1 inch, you'll mark 1.5 inches on from the top and from the down. Now after doing that, you're going to take a piece of paper and mark 3 inches. Because you're using 1.5 inches, you're marking 3 inches, which you're going to be folding. That is, by the time you cut this 3 inches on your fabric, you're going to fold it. For your fabric, you're going to be adding allowance, so you cut 4 inches, which you will be joining with half an inch, and then by the time you fold it together, it's going to be giving you 1.5 inches on both sides. So that 1.5 inches is going to be joined together at this center back area. That part you mark 1.5 inches, you're going to be joining it there, and then you're going to also be joining it at this lower part like this. By the time you join it on your fabric, this is what it's going to look like. Remember, you're going to be joining it like this. And also take note that for the lower part where you have your waist to the hip, you're going to be cutting two pieces of this, and you're going to also join them together, meaning there's not going to be opening for the lower part. The only opening is going to be at this upper part where you're going to be having these ropes for the up and down, and you're going to be tying them together. So that is how the design is. I know it's a little bit complicated, but if you follow me, you're going to get it right. So at this point, we are done with this tutorial. If you find this tutorial very helpful, please ensure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Thank you guys for watching. See you all in my next video. Thank you.